Very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Saturday morning. I hope you've all had a great week. Going to look forward to the weekend because there's no football, or certainly no West Ham football, so it can't ruin it for you, can it? I hope you've all had a good week, and I hope you're all positive with the signing of Kalvin Phillips. That's finally signed for West Ham United on Friday, as I'm sure you all know. But before I get on to the transfers, I'm going to talk about something else that came up on Friday because it was rather a surprise. And what's it got to do with us anyway? Well, I'm sure you've all heard that Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool at the end of this season. And he stated that he can't go on. He's run out of fuel. He's burnt out. I'd love that. I love it if people in the job that just went to their boss and went, "Do you know what, mate? I'm leaving now because I'm just burnt out. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to go and do something else, play golf and stuff like that." I'm sure maybe some people actually do that. But what's it got to do with us? What on earth does it really matter whether Jurgen Klopp leaves Liverpool or not? Well, the first thing is that he won't keep going on about Jared Bowen, how much he admires him, and keep tapping the player up at every opportunity. So I guess we've got that to say goodbye to. But who knows? Maybe the next Liverpool manager might start trying to tap up Jared Bowen and other more of our players when he comes in. And this is where it might impact on West Ham United if you really believe some of the rumours that were being bandied around from the end of last season up to now. And that, of course, is all about Xabi Alonso. Now, a lot of West Ham fans, I don't know, wishful thinking maybe, just believe that because of Tim Steidten, Xabi Alonso was nailed on to come to West Ham United at the end of this season when David Moyes' contract expires. But will that happen now? Was it ever going to happen, to be honest with you? Probably not. But now there's probably even less chance that Alonso, if he was thinking of coming to manage in the Premier League, would he come to West Ham United just because of Tim Steidten? Or does he have a closer connection to Liverpool? Who knows? But it's all going to be fun and games, isn't it, to see what happens over the coming months and the end of the season. Look, Klopp, you've got to admit, great manager, miserable git sometimes, moans about an awful lot of stuff, but all credit to him. He's done wonders at Liverpool, and good luck to him. Apparently, he'll never manage another English team again. So let's see where he goes. Of course, when he goes back to Germany or whatever, he might get Jared Bowen over there. Who knows? Anyway, let's talk about our transfers. And of course, the first one, the one that was confirmed on Friday, was Kalvin Phillips. It's taken David Moyes over 2 years to get Phillips to sign on the dotted line. And he's finally done it. You know, Phillips even said in his first interview that Moyes was chasing him 2 years ago. If you watched the show I did recently, the other day, I talked about the January transfer window in 2022 when one of the prime targets was Kalvin Phillips for David Moyes. But anyway, it's happened now. So, and I've also talked the other day about how I think Phillips would have an impact on West Ham. But I've got more. I want to talk a little bit more about Phillips because I think it's going to be quite a crucial signing for us in the next 6 months of this, or in the second half, should I say, of this season. Look, the one thing that we know about Phillips is his range of passing. And his tenacity in midfield, and alongside someone like Alvarez, who I believe, so long as Alvarez doesn't go in the back, and I have speculated that Alvarez might end up becoming a central defensive midfield, might end up in central defense rather than in midfield. I don't know, but it could happen. But let's say, for argument's sake, Alvarez is going to line up alongside Phillips in midfield. And the opposition, anyone coming to play West Ham United, I would be a little bit concerned because if the opposition take the game to us and go too far forward, they'll leave big gaps behind them. And what can Phillips do in order to exploit those gaps? Well, he's got an excellent range of passing, hasn't he? At the moment, every time we seem to not have the ball, we have all our 11 players back behind the ball. So when we actually do get the ball, eventually get it, we're kind of hoofing it away, and there's no one there to hoof it to. So inevitably, the ball comes straight back to us. And we never seem to get on the front foot because we're continuously defending. And isn't that one of the gripes that we have as fans, that we can't defend for a whole 90 minutes? It's just not sustainable. But having a player like Phillips in the team can change that tactic, can change the way we defend, because two central defensive midfielders in the team would probably mean you don't need all 11 players back behind the ball when we're defending. You could have one, maybe even two players hanging a little bit further forward, giving the opposition defenders something to worry about. And then with the passing range that Phillips possesses, especially the sort of long balls, diagonal balls, etc., he could win the ball back from defense, midfield, and get it to one of our players to hit the opposition on the break. So I think our counter-attacking play is going to improve. I think David Moyes is going to be thinking to himself, right, I've got two central defensive midfielders, both decent players. There's no need to have all my 11 men back behind the ball. I'll leave one hanging a little bit further forward around the halfway line, like most other teams do. Because if you look at other teams, they'll defend in numbers, of course, but they've always got one, maybe two players who are just a little bit further forward, just in case the team gets the ball back and can lay it off to that player. And I think with Phillips in the team, that's the tactics that we're going to change to. So yes, we'll be defending, of course. Of course you have to. Silly not to. But I don't think, maybe, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think we're going to have all 11 players back. If you cast your minds back to a couple of seasons back, we was playing a similar sort of way. When we had Jesse Lingard on loan in the team, he didn't drop back too far to defend. He was always hovering a little bit further forward. Yarmolenko, if you remember the goal he scored against Chelsea, which effectively kept us in the Premier League, when Moyes was here, was a little bit further forward. We had players who were speculating that if we get the ball back, it's better to be a little bit further forward than all players behind the ball. And I think with Phillips, that is what is likely to be the case. I think, his tenacity, the way he can defend, help the defense out, getting the ball. Phillips is not the sort of player where he's just going to hoof the ball away. He's the sort of player that when he gets it, he will look for a positive forward pass, usually a long diagonal one, but a forward pass nonetheless. And I think possibly that's why it kind of didn't really work for him at Man City, because Man City, they love to sort of move the ball around, short passes, sort of 1-2s and all that sort of stuff. That's not their sort of game, is it, to get a ball with and a long pass? But it's likely to become more of our game. Now, is that going to be boring? Well, no, not necessarily. If we get something out of that, if we have more attacking play, more shots on target, etc., if there's an outcome, then I think it will be a decent approach to make. So I'm quite excited by that. I'm quite excited that Phillips will be in the team to not only play alongside Alvarez. They're quite different players, both defensive midfielders, but they're very different. Alvarez, he's got the strength to carry the ball out. He's got that sort of that grit, that determination. Phillips is a little bit different in his technical ability. They both have good technical ability, but very different to each other. And I think they'll complement each other. And in that respect, that's why I'm looking forward to Phillips coming to West Ham United. He can certainly offer something different than Alvarez does. They can certainly complement each other in the centre of midfield. And with Phillips's long-range passing, it's going to look like, we're going to be hitting teams on the break a lot more often. You remember how the way we played a few seasons back. That's the style of football that we were playing. Getting the ball forward, hitting teams on the counter-attack and succeeding. So I think Phillips is quite an interesting and possibly exciting proposition to have. And I'm pleased that we've got him. Look, I know there's a lot of talk about, no one really knows if there's an option to buy, an obligation to buy, or no option at all to buy. My understanding is, no, there's never been an obligation to buy at the end of this season. But if Phillips does well, there will be an option to buy, which will be negotiated at the end of the season. So, the option is we'll negotiate. Let's see what happens. I hope he has a really good 6 months with us, just the same way Jesse Lingard did. Look, one of the things you've got to give Moyes credit for, if anything, is he seems to revitalise careers of players that we thought were long gone. Craig Dawson, Jesse Lingard. And now with Phillips sort of languishing on the subs bench, all right, he's had quite a long injury as well at Man City, but more sort of on the subs bench, not getting an awful lot of game time. This could be the catalyst for Phillips to sort of revive his career. I said the other day that he needs to be playing because Gareth Southgate wants him to be part of the England squad for the Euros this coming summer. So I think it's going to be good all round. But the style of play that Phillips has could certainly complement the way we used to do such really effective counter-attacking football. And I think that's coming back with players a little bit further forward, waiting on Phillips or Alvarez to get the ball, win the ball back, and then spraying it out to hit other teams on the counter-attack. So it's going to be interesting. What else have we got? Well, the news of Kalvin Phillips was kind of almost overshadowed the signing of Callum Marshall, who signed a 3.5-year deal on Friday as well, in order to keep him at West Ham United until the summer of 2027, and hopefully beyond that as well. But he was immediately, as you all know, then loaned out to West Bromwich Albion. Now, isn't it great to actually have one of our players loaned to a championship team rather than, it's not that I've got any problem with players being loaned out to League One or League Two teams, but to really demonstrate how capable they are, it's got to be in the championship, hasn't it? So I'm absolutely delighted for Callum Marshall to be loaned out to a championship team, and not just a championship team is, hasn't got much to play for, a championship team that is striving to get back into the Premier League at this moment in time, possibly through the playoffs. And that's fantastic. I think that's an absolutely positive move, and it absolutely demonstrates just how much West Ham think of this young lad. They believe he's got a great future ahead of him. Yeah, every time we loaned Gideon Kodua out last week, and he went to Wycombe Wanderers alongside Freddie Potts in League One. And that's great because I think Kodua played the other day. I think he got his debut. But to really demonstrate what a young player is capable of, what better way to do that than in the championship itself? Now, West Bromwich Albion are flying higher. Well, they're doing really well at the moment. If you look at the championship table, they're lying 5th in that table with 45 points. But they do have a whole host of teams behind them, all the way down to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough on 40 points in 11th place. And so they got teams on their shirt tails. And if you look at the goals scored, goals for, they are, apart from Sunderland, they're the lowest scoring team in the top half of the league. They've got 40 goals, whereas other teams, if you look, 56, 51, 55, 45, etc., etc. So, I mean, the good thing is that in terms of their defence, they got one of the better defensive units in the league. Only conceding 27 goals, which is the third best in the league. I think Leicester, as you can see, have got the best goals against, 22, and then that's followed up by Leeds United, who are above West Brom on 26 goals conceded. So they've got a really good defence, but it seems in order to sort of push on, it's the attack that they need to bolster. And I know that they've been getting players in, and Marshall is one of them. So I'm excited for Callum Marshall because I don't think he's just going there just to make up the numbers. I actually think Callum Marshall is going to be playing quite a bit of football for West Bromwich Albion. Look, at this moment in time, their top goal scorer is Brandon Thomas Asante, and he's got 10 goals for the season so far, of which one is in the League Cup and the other 9 are in the league. Now, he's their top goal scorer on 9. If you want to push for promotion, you need someone that's going to be banging in a hell of a lot more goals, with the greatest of respect to Thomas Asante. And the next player below him is midfielder John Swift with only 6 goals, and then ex-West Ham player Grady Diangana with 5 goals. So you can see that they're crying out. I mean, they've had a number of injuries as well. They've had bad luck in injuries and so on. So they need to strengthen the squad anyway in order to keep pushing for a playoff place. But given the number of goals that their top goal scorers have scored so far this season, I think Callum Marshall is in with a really, really big shout. And imagine if he makes an impression there, if he gets half a dozen goals or so for this team in the half a season that he's there, that could lead them to getting into staying in the playoff position. And who knows, winning the playoffs as well. And if Marshall's involved in that too, would be an absolute wonderful half a season for the player. And he'll come back to West Ham United, having had that experience, having played with the big boys. It's gonna be an awful lot of pressure for him. He's going to be playing in front of something like 26,500 West Brom fans at home, big crowds in championship games, and there's going to be a lot to expect from him. But also, it's a tough league, isn't it? As we found ourselves against Bristol City in the FA Cup. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. And that can only bode well for Callum Marshall. If he can get through that and demonstrate his ability in goal scoring and attacking, then absolutely superb for West Ham United. Now, manager Carlos Corberán has done an absolutely fantastic job at West Bromwich Albion in the 1.5 years that he's been there, give or take. He was actually a bit longer than that. He was there. No, I'm right. He was there from October 2022. And when he took over, West Brom was second from bottom in the league. They hadn't won a game, or they went through 16 games. They were second from bottom in the league. It looked like they were going to be relegated. And what Corberán did in the time that he was there, in the first just over half a season that he was there, was none other than spectacular. He managed to get them from second from bottom all the way up to fighting for a place in the playoffs. And they just missed out on the last day of the season, where they were 3 points adrift from the playoff positions. So, and this season, he's doing well again. In 5th place, as I showed you, going great guns. Really decent manager, young, 40-year-old. And he seems to have a great career ahead of him, David Sullivan. And the one other thing about Corberán is interesting, which bodes well for West Ham United, is he prefers a 4-2-3-1 position. A 4-2-3-1 setup, which we know is the favourite set formation for David Moyes as well. Now, my understanding is Thomas Asante usually plays the lone striker role, but I don't know whether he would use Callum Marshall in that position. It's going to be interesting how Corberán uses him. I think Corberán will use him along the 3 just behind the striker. So you may find Marshall either playing in central attacking midfield, left side or right side, and possibly in order to give Thomas Asante some respite, you might even see Marshall going up front every once in a while. Do I expect him to be starting every game? No, I don't. Do I expect him to get an awful lot of game time? I think absolutely. And why not? He's got to be a serious consideration, for a starting lineup every now and again. And if not, I think we will see him coming off the subs bench, given a number of opportunities to demonstrate his worth. I really hope it goes well for him. I think he goes to West Brom with a big reputation already. Premier League 2 Player of the Month for the October and December months when he was playing for the under-21s. He scored 19 goals in 15 under-21 appearances this season. He's a fully fledged Northern Ireland international, having made 3 appearances already. I just can't help feeling that he's going to smash it at West Brom, and we wish him all the very best. And of course, we'll be following his progress throughout the second half of this season. So what about some other transfer news? Well, I'll be honest with you, it's a bit, but not much that you've heard that you haven't already heard of. We're still interested in receiving offers for Naifa Gerd and Saeed Benrahma, as well as Maxwell Cornet. But the surprise for me is Pablo Fornals. Now, I was pretty much convinced after having his contract extended by another year, I was pretty much convinced that Fornals wasn't going to be leaving West Ham United until this summer. But it seems that Manuel Pellegrini, ex-West Ham United manager, remains a huge admirer of the player. And it looks as if a deal is going to be done for circa £7 million. I feel a bit sick about that, £7 million. Pellegrini, he brought Fornals to West Ham in 2019 from Villarreal for around about 25 million pounds. He's given us some fantastic moments, Fornals, hasn't he? You know, there's been some great moments. He's absolutely, you know, we treated him as one of our own, you know, the Spanish Cockney and all that sort of stuff. And there were so many moments to remember. The season when we were struggling, you know, the goals he got then, you know, and the smile on his face when we were playing well and finishing sixth in the league in Europe for the first time, etc., etc. He's going to be missed. But for me, of course, and maybe for many fans, is the greatest memory I think he's going to leave for us is the goal in the second leg of the semi-final against AZ Alkmaar when he scored the one goal right into injury time. I was there. I was right at the back there, you know, and it was a fantastic moment. And he's going to, if he really is going to leave, I mean, we know he's going to leave, but I genuinely thought he was going to be leaving at the end of this season. But if he is really leaving anytime soon, before this January window closes, we wish him all the very best. Him and his family, you know, just fantastic player for us. It's such a shame, you know, he's lost his mojo at West Ham. All right, many people are going to complain that's because of David Moyes and the way he's been treated, etc., etc. And you can argue there may be, you know, some truth in that. I don't know. But whatever happens, if he goes to Real Betis or wherever he goes, we will wish him the very, very best. So what other news? Well, you know, it keeps being suggested that we're still in for this young lad, Ibrahim Osman of Danish club. I know I made a mistake the other day. I started with Danish. I went Norwegian, back to Danish. Ibrahim Osman from FC Norgeland. Now, look, I still don't get this one, to be quite honest with you. I won't lie. I still don't get how this is going to work out. I suggested that if we do buy him, he's going to be one for the future. He'll probably go in the under 21s. And pundits have begun to sort of talk in much the same way. And some pundits are now even suggesting that we might buy him and then loan him out. Maybe loan him out back to Norgeland and then have him here in the summer. But then that's what I don't get. Because if we do buy him and we're speculating for the future, that doesn't help us in the right now, because we still need at least another player, an attacking player, primarily on the left-hand side, to come in order to give us that, go back to having a bit of depth. You know, if Benrahma leaves, if Cornet leaves, that's two other players that can play on the left-hand side that are not going to be around. Paqueta's done a great job, but that's not where you want him to be. I mean, he's not really a winger, is he? He's more like an inverted, whatever you want to call it, inverted winger. He plays on the left, but he keeps drifting into midfield an awful lot throughout the game. So I think it's going to be interesting. I just can't get my head round the Ibrahim Osman rumour. And I think we've got someone else lined up for that left-hand side. If we buy Osman, it's going to be one for the future. But otherwise, I can see us going for another player. Now, this Jota from Al Ittihad, the Saudi club, keeps being mentioned as well. But as I said the other day, his salary is quite prohibitive. He's on 200 grand a week, not being played because they've got too many foreign players in their squad. So he's the one that's been sacrificed. But I can't see him coming, to be honest, unless he's going to take a significant drop in salary. That could be possible. It could be possible that if he does, then maybe he's an option. Leeds United player, his name Gnotto, keeps being rumoured, but there's nothing there as well. Do you remember Jack Clark? Do you remember Jonathan Rowe? All these players, all being rumoured to come to West Ham United. Nothing is materialising. But I just wonder if Tim Steidten has got something up his sleeve that we don't quite know about. And it'll be interesting to find out we've got another what? It's Saturday now. We've got another 5 days before the transfer window shuts. There will be one more player probably coming in, maybe someone that no one has even mentioned before up to now. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll probably be back with another update show when we have a few more transfer stories that are quite solid, rather than just sort of all this speculation. So if we do have those stories, do watch out for the video that I'll do, and I'll see you all very soon.